I'm Scarlett Thompson, a 38-year-old real estate titan in Manhattan's ruthless world. Once certain I had it all: a thriving career, a loving family, a husband I trusted. But in one shattering moment, at my daughter Lily's NYU graduation gala, my world collapsed. Julian, my husband of 14 years, stood before hundreds and declared his love for a younger woman, leaving me a spectacle of pity. The world saw a defeated wife, but they didn't know me. I'm a survivor, and I crafted a devastating counterstrike that brought him to his knees. This is my story of turning pain into power, and I can't wait to share it. Hit that subscribe button to join me, and drop a comment. Where are you watching from, and when? Stick around to see how I flipped betrayal into triumph. You won't want to miss the end. The plaza's ballroom glittered under a constellation of chandeliers, their light fracturing into 1,000 tiny diamonds across the polished marble floor. I stood there, Scarlett Thompson, 38, in a crimson gown that clung to my curves like a second skin. The kind of dress that screamed confidence and power. My chestnut hair was swept into an elegant updo, and my heels, black Louboutins, gave me the extra inch to feel untouchable. This was supposed to be a night of triumph, a celebration of my daughter Lily, 21, radiant in her NYU cap and gown, her hazel eyes sparkling with the pride of a graduate. The room buzzed with Manhattan's elite, real estate tycoons, hedge fund sharks, and our firm's top brass, all here to toast her achievement. I sipped my champagne, the bubbles sharp on my tongue, and smiled, thinking, this is it, Scarlett. You've built a life most only dream of. Julian, my husband of 14 years, stood beside me, his tailored suit accentuating his broad shoulders. He was 40, still handsome in that polished salesman way, with a jawline that could close a deal and a charm I'd once fallen hard for. We'd built an empire together in Manhattan's cutthroat real estate world, me passing up multi-million-dollar deals to let him shine as the star broker. Tonight, he was set to give a toast to Lily, our pride and joy, the girl who'd inherited my grit and his charisma. I adjusted my diamond earrings, a gift from Julian for our 10th anniversary, and waited for his words, my heart swelling with love for our family. He stepped up to the microphone, his glass raised, and the room hushed. The clink of silverware faded, replaced by the soft hum of anticipation. I looked at Lily, her smile wide, her cap slightly askew. Then Julian's voice sliced through the air, cold and deliberate. I need to live my truth. Scarlett and I are getting a divorce. Chloe is my future. The words hit like a sledgehammer. The room froze, a tableau of shocked faces under the glittering lights. My champagne flute trembled in my hand, the liquid sloshing against the rim. Chloe Davis, the 25-year-old intern I'd mentored, stood at the back of the room, her blonde hair catching the light like a halo. Her lips curled into a smug smirk, her blue eyes glinting with victory. She was no bombshell, but she had that youthful confidence I'd once mistaken for ambition. 200 pairs of eyes, colleagues, clients, friends, swiveled to me, their gazes like needles piercing my skin. Lily's face drained of color, her hands clutching the edge of her chair. I felt my heart splinter, each word from Julian a shard embedding deeper. 14 years. I gave him everything. I turned down a $20 million penthouse deal last year, handing it to Julian so he could bask in the glory, so he wouldn't feel overshadowed by my success. I'd spent nights coaching him on client pitches, mornings teaching Chloe how to read a room, how to close a deal without blinking. And this was my reward. A public gut punch in front of Manhattan's real estate royalty. My daughter, my entire world. I could have screamed, thrown my glass, let the tears I felt burning behind my eyes spill over. But I'm Scarlett fucking Thompson. I don't break. Not here. Not now. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. I locked eyes with Julian, his expression a mix of defiance and unease. like he hadn't expected me to stay standing. I forced a smile, the kind that could sell a crumbling brownstone for millions, and raised my glass. "Congratulations, Julian," I said, my voice steady, carrying through the mic he'd forgotten to step away from. "Fly free." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lily's eyes widened, a mix of horror and admiration. Chloe's smirk faltered. Just for a second, I turned, my heels clicking sharply on the marble, and walked toward the bar at the far end of the room, every step a declaration that I wasn't the one who'd been defeated. The bartender, a young guy with a sympathetic glance, poured me a double scotch without asking. I leaned against the counter, the cold glass grounding me as whispers erupted behind me. "Did you see her face?" She didn't even flinch. I sipped the scotch, its burn a welcome distraction from the ache in my chest. How did we get here, I thought, my mind flashing to our early days, Julian and I in a cramped Brooklyn apartment, eating cold pizza, laughing over our dreams of conquering Manhattan's skyline. I'd believed in us, in him. I'd built him up brick by brick, only to watch him tear it all down in a single moment. Lily appeared at my side, her cap now off, her dark hair spilling over her shoulders. "Mom," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Are you okay?" I pulled her close, her warmth a lifeline. "I'm fine, sweetheart," I lied, kissing her forehead. "This is your night. Don't let him ruin it." But inside, I was reeling. The man I'd loved, the father of my child, had just declared war in front of everyone who mattered. I glanced back at the room, catching Chloe's smug grin as she leaned into Julian, his arm around her like a trophy. "You think you've won," I thought, my grip tightening on the glass. "You have no idea who you're fucking with." Looking back, that moment was the crack in the foundation of the life I'd built. I thought I was unbreakable, but betrayal cuts deeper than I ever imagined. Yet even then, standing there with the weight of 100 stairs, I felt a spark ignite, a fire that would burn hotter than their betrayal. The cold Manhattan wind whipped across the plaza's rooftop terrace, stinging my cheeks and snapping me out of the haze of Julian's betrayal. I gripped the iron railing, my crimson gown fluttering like a battle flag, the city's skyline sprawling before me, a jagged beast of steel and light that didn't give a damn about my broken heart. Below, the gala's muffled hum drifted up, a cruel reminder of the 200 pairs of eyes that had just watched my husband of 14 years declare his love for Chloe, the 25-year-old intern I'd mentored. My fingers tightened, nails digging into my palms. 14 years, Julian. I built you, and you gutted me in front of everyone. I could still see Lily's pale face, her NYU cap askew, her eyes wide with shock as she whispered, "Mom, are you okay?" I'd lied to her, said I was fine, sent her back to her friends to salvage her night. But I wasn't fine. My chest ached like someone had ripped it open, and the champagne I'd downed at the bar burned in my throat. I'd given up a $20 million penthouse deal to let Julian shine, taught Chloe how to charm clients, and for what? To be humiliated in front of Manhattan's real estate elite? I stared at my reflection in the glass door, my red lipstick stark against my pale skin, my eyes hollow. Who the hell are you, Scarlett? The fool who trusted him? My phone buzzed in my clutch, pulling me back. I fished it out, expecting a text from Lily or a pity message from a colleague. Instead, it was an email from our company's CRM system, flagged as urgent. My heart sank as I opened it. Julian had reassigned my VIP client list, my life's work, the relationships I'd nurtured over a decade, to Chloe's account. Names like the hedge fund tycoon who bought a Tribeca loft, the tech mogul with a Soho penthouse, all now under her name, my legacy, handed to her like a cheap trinket. "You bastard," I hissed, my breath fogging the night air. He wasn't just leaving me. He was trying to erase me from the empire I'd built. 14 years of propping you up, and this is how you repay me? I paced the terrace, the city's pulse, honking cabs, distant sirens, matching the fury rising in my chest. I remembered the nights I'd spent coaching Julian through pitches, the mornings I'd sat with Chloe, teaching her how to read a client's poker face. I thought I was building a team, a family, but they'd been plotting behind my back, probably laughing at how naive I was. I stopped, staring at my reflection again, and for a moment, I hated the woman looking back. How did you miss this, Scarlett? How did you let him play you? I'd always prided myself on reading people, clients, competitors, but I'd been blind to the man I loved. Then my phone buzzed again, a voicemail from Anna, a junior broker who'd been at the gala. Her voice trembled. Scarlett, I'm so sorry, I didn't know who else to call. I overheard Julian and Chloe in the lounge after you left. He was telling her he'd give her your Hudson Yards project, said it'd make her a star. My blood ran cold. Hudson Yards was my baby, a $30 million condo development I'd spent 2 years cultivating. Julian wasn't just stealing my clients. He was handing my entire career to his mistress. That son of a bitch, I muttered, my voice shaking with a rage I hadn't felt in years. I saved the voicemail, my fingers steady now, the spark from the gala igniting into a fire. I leaned against the railing, the city's lights blurring as I fought the urge to storm back into the ballroom and confront him. But that's what he wanted, a hysterical wife, a scene to paint me as the unstable one. I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction. I thought of Lily, her graduation night tainted by her father's selfishness. This isn't just about me, it's about her too. I'd protected her from my doubts about Julian for years, shielding her from his late nights, his business trips. But now, he'd crossed a line, and I wasn't going to let him destroy everything I'd built for us. Looking back, I see that terrace as the place where I started to fight. I'd spent years being Julian's rock, his cheerleader, but that night, I realized I'd been my own worst enemy. I'd let him dim my light, and for what? The wind carried the faint sound of laughter from the gala below, but I was done playing the perfect wife. I straightened, my heels clicking as I headed for the elevator. Julian thought he'd broken me, but he'd only woken me up. You fucked with the wrong woman, Julian. I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to make him regret it. Hindsight's a brutal teacher. I remember the early days, Julian and I in our tiny Brooklyn apartment, eating cold pizza, laughing over dreams of owning Manhattan's skyline. I thought we were a team. Now I know I was carrying him. The elevator doors slid shut, sealing me off from the gala's muffled laughter and the sting of Julian's betrayal. I leaned against the cool metal wall, my crimson gown catching the dim light, my reflection a blurry ghost in the polished surface. The fire that sparked on the plaza's rooftop terrace burned hotter now, fueled by Anna's voicemail about Julian promising Chloe my Hudson Yards project. You think you can steal my life and walk away, you bastard? I wasn't just Scarlett Thompson, the scorned wife. I was Scarlett fucking Thompson, the woman who'd built an empire in Manhattan's real estate jungle. And I was done being played. Back in our Tribeca loft, the city's neon glow bled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. The apartment felt like a stranger's now, our wedding photo on the mantel. Julian's smug grin next to mine mocked me. I kicked off my Louboutins, the sharp clack echoing, and poured a glass of bourbon, its amber burn grounding me. My laptop glowed on the dining table, a lifeline to the truth. I logged into the company's CRM system, my senior access granting me the keys to Julian's dirty secrets. The screen flickered, and I dove in, my fingers flying over the keys, chasing the evidence Anna's words had hinted at. The CRM logs hit me like a punch to the gut. Julian had edited deal records, slapping Chloe's name on my closings, a $15 million Upper East Side penthouse, a Soho loft. Every deal I'd sweated blood for, my name, my legacy, was erased with a few clicks to prop up his mistress. 14 years, and this is how you repay me. I scrolled deeper, my bourbon untouched, and found more. He'd reassigned my VIP client list. Hedge fund tycoons, tech moguls, my goddamn life's work to Chloe. The audacity made my vision blur with rage. He wasn't just leaving me. He was trying to rewrite my career to make her a star. I called Megan Harper, my best friend and our firm's market analyst, at 2 a.m. Her voice was groggy but sharp with concern. "Scarlett, you okay? I saw what happened at the gala." I cut to the chase, telling her about Anna's voicemail and the CRM logs. "That son of a bitch," she spat, her usual polish gone. She confirmed Julian had been lobbying the board to put Chloe on the Hudson Yards project. My $30 million baby, 2 years of my life, poured into every detail. Then she dropped a bomb. Earlier that week, she'd overheard Chloe in the office break room, giggling with another intern about the clientless goldmine Julian promised her. "I thought it was just gossip," Megan said, guilt creeping into her tone. "I should have told you." My heart pounded, but I kept my voice steady. "Can you get to the office now? I need to hear it for myself." 30 minutes later, we met in the deserted office, the Manhattan skyline a silent witness through the glass walls. Megan led me to the break room, its fluorescent lights harsh against the dark. She replayed the scene in a whisper, Chloe's smug laugh, her voice dripping with triumph, as she bragged about Julian's plan to set her up for life. I pulled out my phone, hitting record as Megan recounted every word, her memory razor sharp. It wasn't just hearsay, it was a weapon. I synced the recording to my cloud, along with screenshots of the CRM logs and Julian's incriminating emails to Chloe. One carelessly CC'd to a team alias. "This list will make you untouchable, babe." "You fucked up, Julian," I whispered to the empty office, my voice echoing off the glass. My hands shook, not with fear, but with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just about saving my career, it was about reclaiming my power. I thought of Lily, her graduation night tainted by her father's selfishness. "This is for you too, kid." I'd shielded her from Julian's late-night meetings and vague excuses, but no more. He'd crossed a line, and I was drawing a new one. Looking back, that night in the office was when I stopped being the victim. I'd spent years building Julian up, believing we were a team. Now I saw the truth. I'd been carrying him, and he'd used me to climb. I remembered our first big close, a $1 million condo in Chelsea. Julian had fumbled the pitch, and I'd stepped in, sealing the deal with a smile. He'd kissed me under the stars, promising we'd conquer Manhattan together. What a lie. Now, with every piece of evidence saved, I felt the fire in my gut roar louder. Julian thought he'd buried me, but he'd only handed me the shovel to dig his grave. Hindsight's a cruel mirror. I used to see love in Julian's eyes. Now I see calculation. But that night, I saw something else. Myself, not as his wife, but as a survivor ready to fight. The fluorescent lights of the office flickered as I stepped out of the break room. Megan's whispered recounting of Chloe's smug boasts still ringing in my ears. My phone, clutched tightly, held the recording of her words, a ticking bomb. The Manhattan skyline loomed through the glass walls, its cold glow mirroring the fire in my gut. I'd just uncovered Julian's plot to steal my career, my clients, my goddamn legacy, and hand it all to his 25-year-old mistress. "You thought you could erase me, Julian?" I muttered, my voice low in the empty office. "You fucked with the wrong woman." The evidence I'd saved, CRM logs, emails, that damning recording, was my arsenal, and I was ready to weaponize it. Dawn broke over Manhattan, painting the city in hues of gold and steel. I didn't go home. The Tribeca loft, with its wedding photos and Julian's lingering scent, felt like a graveyard of my old life. Instead, I hailed a cab to Midtown, the streets already humming with early morning hustle. My crimson gown was gone, swapped for a sharp blazer and slacks, but my resolve burned brighter than ever. I stepped into Rachel's law office, a sleek space of glass and walnut, sunlight streaming through the windows, glinting off her desk like a spotlight. Rachel, my lawyer, was a no-nonsense woman with a pixie cut and eyes that could cut through bullshit. She slid a coffee across the table, her gaze steady. "You look like you haven't slept, Scarlett. What's this about?" I laid it all out. Julian's public betrayal at Lily's graduation gala. The CRM logs showing he'd reassigned my clients to Chloe. The recording of her gloating about my Hudson Yards project. Rachel's pen tapped rhythmically as she listened. Then she flipped through our marriage contract, her fingers pausing on a clause I'd nearly forgotten. Your prenup, she said, from when you had more assets than Julian. It protects your investments, including your 10% stake in the firm. His data transfers. That's a breach of company policy. Grounds for termination. She leaned forward, a glint in her eye. You've got him by the balls, Scarlett. My heart raced, not with fear, but with a thrill I hadn't felt in years. 14 years. And I'm finally seeing you for what you are, Julian. I thought of Lily, her graduation night tarnished by her father's selfishness, and the ache in my chest hardened into resolve. Rachel confirmed the CRM violations could sink Julian, but I needed more than a firing. I needed to reclaim my place in the firm, my life. Back at my hotel, because I couldn't face the loft, I sat at the desk, the city's pulse vibrating through the walls. I opened my laptop and crafted a report, sharp as a blade, detailing Julian's and Chloe's scheme. The falsified deal records, the stolen client list, the recorded conversation. Every word was a bullet, aimed straight at their smug facades. But I didn't stop there. I picked up my phone and dialed Sotheby's International Realty, our firm's biggest rival. The VP, a silver-haired shark named Victoria, answered on the second ring. Scarlett Thompson, she purred. To what do I owe the pleasure? I kept it coy but clear. If my firm doesn't value my work, I know others who will. My client list could be flexible. It was a gamble, but I was done playing safe. Victoria's laugh was low, intrigued. Let's talk soon, she said. I hung up, my hands steady, picturing Julian's face when he realized I wasn't just fighting back. I was rewriting the game. Playing dirty, huh, Julian? I muttered, hitting send on the report to Harold, our chairman. The email whooshed into the ether, a missile headed for its target. I leaned back, the hotel room's silence wrapping around me like armor. I thought of the early days, when Julian and I would stay up late, mapping out our rise in Manhattan's real estate world. I'd believed in him, in us. God, I was naive. But now, with every piece of evidence locked in my cloud, I felt a shift. This wasn't just about survival, it was about power. I wasn't the scorned wife anymore. I was Scarlett Thompson, the woman who'd built an empire, and I was taking it back. Looking back, that morning was when I crossed a line, from victim to victor. I'd spent years lifting Julian up, thinking love meant sacrifice. Now I saw it meant strength. I remembered our first big win, a Chelsea condo deal, where I'd saved his ass after he botched the pitch. He'd kissed me under the city lights, promising we'd conquer together. What a fucking lie. But as the sun rose higher, bathing Manhattan in gold, I knew I was done being his shadow. This was my turning point, and Julian was about to learn what happens when you underestimate Scarlett Thompson. Hindsight's a brutal teacher. I used to see love in Julian's eyes. Now I see betrayal. But in that hotel room, I saw myself, not just a survivor, but a fighter ready to strike. The moment I hit send on that report, I felt the weight of it, like a missile launched into the heart of Julian's smug world. I stood in my hotel room, the Manhattan skyline pulsing beyond the window, its lights a silent cheer for the fight I was about to unleash. My crimson gown was long gone, replaced by a tailored black suit, sharp as a blade, my chestnut hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. I was Scarlett Thompson, 38, not just a betrayed wife, but a survivor ready to reclaim her empire. The evidence I'd gathered, CRM logs, emails, Chloe's recorded boasts, sat in my cloud like a loaded gun. You fucked with the wrong woman, Julian. Monday morning, I stepped into our firm's conference room, all glass and chrome, with Central Park's green sprawl shimmering through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The air smelled of fresh coffee and tension. The board members' faces a gallery of stone-cold expressions. Harold, our chairman, sat at the head, his silver hair catching the light, his eyes sharp as ever. Julian was there, in a navy suit, his jaw tight, but his smirk still lingering, as if he thought he could charm his way out of this. Chloe sat 2 seats down, her blonde hair tucked behind her ears, her eyes darting nervously. "You're not so smug now, are you?" I thought, setting my laptop on the polished table, its surface cool under my fingers. I stood, my heart pounding, but my voice steady as steel. "Good morning," I began, clicking the projector to life. "I'm here to address a breach of trust within our firm." The screen lit up with Julian's CRM edits, my deals, my penthouse closings, reassigned to Chloe's name. Gasps rippled through the room. I played the recording of Chloe's voice, her giggle echoing as she bragged about the client list goldmine Julian promised. The board leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Julian stood, his face flushed, pointing at me. "This is bullshit, Scarlett. You're jealous, twisting things to smear me." His voice cracked, betraying his panic. Chloe chimed in, her voice shrill. "I didn't know anything about this. I swear." But the CRM logs didn't lie. Her name was stamped on my work, clear as day. I locked eyes with Harold, ignoring Julian's outburst. "These actions violate our confidentiality policies and undermine the firm's integrity," I said, sliding printed copies of the evidence across the table. The room was silent, save for the faint hum of the projector. Harold's gaze flicked to Julian, then Chloe, his expression unreadable. "We'll launch an internal investigation," he said, his voice like gravel. "This meeting is adjourned." The board filed out, whispers trailing them like smoke. Julian's eyes burned into me, but I met his stare, unflinching. "You thought I'd stay quiet." In the hallway, he cornered me, his face inches from mine, his cologne sharp and familiar. "You're playing dirty, Scarlett," he hissed, his voice low but shaking. "You're ruining everything." I stepped closer, my heels clicking on the marble floor, my smile cold as ice. "Dirty? You dug your own fucking grave, Julian." He flinched, like my words were a slap. Colleagues passing by slowed, their eyes darting between us, the whispers growing louder. Chloe lingered at the end of the hall, her face pale, her confidence shattered. I turned away, my heart racing but my steps steady, the fire in my gut roaring louder than ever. "This is just the beginning, asshole." Lily texted me as I left the building. "Mom, you okay?" Heard Dad made a scene. I smiled, typing back, "I'm more than okay, sweetheart. I'm fighting." I thought of her at the gala, her face pale when Julian dropped his bomb. I'd shielded her from his lies for years, but now she deserved to see me stand tall. "This is for you too, Lily." The city buzzed around me, honking cabs, the chatter of suits on their lunch break. But I felt a clarity I hadn't known in years. I wasn't just surviving Julian's betrayal. I was rewriting the narrative, and this confrontation was my first strike. Looking back, that boardroom was where I shed the last of my old self. I'd spent years smoothing Julian's edges, making him shine. Now I saw his weakness, his arrogance, his need to control. I remembered our first big pitch together, a Chelsea condo deal where he'd fumbled, and I'd stepped in, closing it with a smile. He'd kissed me under the city lights, promising we'd conquer Manhattan. What a lie. But standing there, with the board's whispers and Julian's rage ringing in my ears, I knew I'd crossed a threshold. I wasn't just Scarlett, the wife who'd sacrificed. I was Scarlett, the survivor who'd fight to win. Hindsight's a brutal mirror. I used to see love in Julian's eyes. Now I see calculation. But in that hallway, with his world starting to crack, I saw my own strength. And it was fucking unstoppable. The echo of Julian's desperate shout in the hallway, "You're playing dirty, Scarlett," still lingered as I stepped out of the office into the Manhattan afternoon, the city's pulse of honking cabs and chattering suits washing over me. My black suit felt like armor, my heels clicking on the sidewalk with a rhythm that said I was no longer the woman who'd stood frozen at Lily's graduation gala. I'd fired the first shot in that boardroom, my report exposing Julian and Chloe's scheme to steal my clients and career. The board's investigation was underway, and I could feel the tide turning. You fucked up, Julian, I thought, a grim smile tugging at my lips, and now you're going to pay. 2 weeks later, the verdict came down like a guillotine. I sat in my temporary hotel suite, still avoiding our Tribeca loft, with its ghosts of a marriage gone sour, when Harold's email hit my inbox. Julian was fired for violating confidentiality policies, his career in Manhattan real estate torched. Chloe, the smug intern who thought she could ride his coattails, was demoted to junior assistant, her dreams of stardom crushed under the weight of my evidence. The board didn't stop there. They offered me the sales director role, a position I'd earned years ago but passed up to let Julian shine. I leaned back in the chair, the city's skyline glittering through the window, and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. This is mine now. I accepted the role the next day, walking into the office with my head high, my tailored navy blazer sharp against the marble floors. Colleagues nodded, their whispers now tinged with respect instead of pity. "Congrats, Scarlett," one said, her eyes wide. "You're a fucking legend." I smiled, the words sinking in. I'd gone from the betrayed wife to the woman who'd taken down a traitor. But the victory wasn't just professional. I met Rachel, my lawyer, at a midtown cafe, the air thick with espresso and ambition. She slid the divorce papers across the table, her pixie cut catching the morning light. "It's done," she said. "You keep the Tribeca loft, your company shares, everything the prenup protected." I signed, my pen steady, severing 14 years with a single stroke. Julian called that evening, his voice raw over the phone. "Scarlett, I fucked up," he said, the words slurring like he'd been drinking. "Please withdraw the report. I'll lose everything." I stood at my hotel window, Manhattan's lights sprawling below, and felt no pity. "You chose this path, Julian," I said, my voice cold as the glass against my hand. "Live with it." I hung up, the silence that followed louder than his pleas. He'd tried to erase me, to hand my legacy to Chloe, but I'd turned his betrayal into my triumph. "You thought you could break me? I'm Scarlett fucking Thompson." The real estate world buzzed with my comeback. I took on a $50 million condo project in Chelsea, my name drawing clients like moths to a flame. Meetings were electric, the conference room alive with the clink of coffee mugs and the hum of deals being struck. I stood at the head of the table, pitching with a confidence I hadn't felt in years, my voice carrying the weight of a woman who'd fought and won. Colleagues looked at me differently now, not as Julian's wife, but as Scarlett, the sales director who'd rewritten the rules. Lily came to the city that weekend, her dark hair loose, her NYU sweatshirt a reminder of the night this all began. We sat on the hotel balcony, the autumn air crisp, the skyline a canvas of possibility. "Mom," she said, her hazel eyes fierce, "I'm so proud of you. Dad didn't deserve you." Her words hit harder than any deal I'd closed. I pulled her close, her warmth easing the ache of those lost years. "This is for us, kid," I said, my voice thick. "I'm building something new." She nodded, her smile a mirror of my own resilience. "For you, Lily, I'd fight 1,000 Julians." Looking back, those weeks were when I reclaimed my soul. I'd spent years propping Julian up, believing love meant sacrifice. I remembered our first big close, a Chelsea condo where I'd saved his pitch, his grateful kiss under the city lights. What a lie! But now, with the loft, the shares, and the director's chair mine, I saw the truth. Victory wasn't just about winning, it was about knowing my worth. Julian's betrayal had cracked me open, but it also set me free. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving, and the city knew it. Hindsight's a brutal teacher. I used to think Julian's dreams were mine. Now I know my dreams are enough, and I'm fucking unstoppable. The Chelsea condo project was in full swing, my name now a beacon in Manhattan's real estate world. drawing clients like moths to a flame. 6 months had passed since I'd stood in that boardroom, watching Julian's world crumble under the weight of my evidence. I'd claimed the sales director role, kept the Tribeca loft, and severed the last ties to a man who'd tried to erase me. Lily's words, "Mom, I'm so proud of you," still echoed, a reminder of why I'd fought. But the victory wasn't just mine. It was for every woman who'd been underestimated, betrayed, and told to stay quiet. I wasn't just Scarlett Thompson, the survivor who'd taken down her cheating husband. I was Scarlett fucking Thompson, the woman who'd rebuilt herself from the ashes. The New York Real Estate Summit loomed, a glittering affair at the Javits Center, where the city's power players gathered to network and preen. I was slated to speak on a panel about women in leadership, a platform I'd never imagined when I was propping up Julian's ego. I stood backstage, the hum of the crowd filtering through the velvet curtains, the air thick with the scent of coffee and ambition. My navy dress hugged my curves, my chestnut hair swept into a loose wave, but it was the fire in my chest that felt like armor. I glanced at my notes, scribbled on a hotel notepad, but I knew I wouldn't need them. This wasn't just a speech. It was my story, raw and unfiltered. The stage lights hit me like a spotlight, hot and unrelenting as I stepped to the podium. Below, a sea of faces, brokers, developers, rising stars, stared up, their eyes a mix of curiosity and respect. Lily sat in the front row, her dark hair framing a proud smile, her NYU pendant glinting. I took a breath, the microphone amplifying the faint tremor in my exhale. 6 months ago, I began, my voice steady. I stood at my daughter's graduation gala, expecting a night of pride. Instead, my husband of 14 years announced he was leaving me for a younger colleague, right in front of Manhattan's elite. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but I held their gaze, unflinching. He didn't just betray our marriage. He tried to steal my career, my clients, my legacy, and hand them to his mistress. I paused, letting the weight settle. I could have crumbled. I could have let the humiliation define me, but I'm Scarlett Thompson, and I don't break. The room leaned in, hanging on my words. I told them how I'd uncovered Julian's scheme, falsified deal records, stolen client lists, and Chloe's smug boasts captured in a recording. I shared the sleepless nights, the rage, the moment I decided to fight. I built an empire in this city, I said, my voice rising, and no one, not my husband, not his mistress, was going to take it from me. Applause erupted, sharp and electric, but I wasn't done. I learned something in those dark months, I continued, my eyes finding Lily's. Your worth isn't what others say it is. It's in how you rise when they try to bury you. I turned my pain into power, and now I mentor women to do the same. Don't let anyone define you. You're enough, more than enough. The crowd surged to their feet, clapping, some wiping tears. Lily's smile was a beacon, her pride brighter than the stage lights. I stepped off the stage, my heels clicking on the polished floor, feeling lighter than I had in years. I wasn't just the sales director or the ex-wife of a trader. I was Scarlett, reborn. After the panel, women approached me, young brokers, seasoned execs, sharing their own stories of betrayal and resilience. I listened, nodding, my heart full. Back at the Tribeca loft, now mine alone, I stood on the balcony, the city's skyline a canvas of possibility. Lily joined me, her arm around my waist. "You were amazing, Mom," she said. "You're showing everyone what strength looks like." I hugged her tight, the autumn air cool against my skin. "I did it for us, kid," I whispered. "For you and for the woman I forgot I could be." Looking back, that speech was my rebirth. I'd spent years believing my worth was tied to Julian, to making him shine. I remembered our first deal, a Chelsea condo where I'd saved his pitch, his kiss under the city lights, promising we'd conquer together. What a fucking lie. But standing on that stage, with Lily's pride and the crowd's applause ringing in my ears, I saw the truth. Betrayal had cracked me open, but it also set me free. I wasn't just surviving, I was leading, inspiring, building a legacy for every woman who'd been told she wasn't enough. Hindsight's a brutal teacher. I used to see love in Julian's eyes. Now I see my own strength. That night, with Manhattan at my feet, I knew I wasn't just a survivor. I was fucking unstoppable. And that's my story. Raw, messy, and real. From the gut punch of betrayal at my daughter's graduation to standing on that stage, reclaiming my power, I learned one thing. You're stronger than you know, even when the world tries to break you. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your stories of fighting back, of rising from the ashes. Share them with me. Let's lift each other up. Thank you for listening, for being here through every twist of this journey. Until we meet again, keep shining. You're enough, and then some.